Today, we are talking about the emotional cost of addiction. And if you're one that thinks you're addicted, whether it's addiction to drugs, alcohol, sex, work, people, or the internet, my message is a message of hope. Hi, I'm Dr. B, and I want you to fully enjoy life and experience the freedom that God desires for you and also for those around you. Now, in a previous video, I gave you a definition of addiction. I cited Webster's dictionary, which describes addiction as exhibiting a compulsive, chronic, physiological, or psychological need for a habit forming substance, behavior, or activity. A person addicted is strongly inclined to do, use, or indulge in something repeatedly. And as I've shared, most major health experts agree that addiction is not a moral shortcoming or even a character weakness, but addiction is a treatable medical illness. And I just want to keep sharing that I'm not a medical professional, but I have helped many in counseling who suffer with addiction. So I'm going to approach these videos talking about addiction from a biblical counselor's perspective. So today, I'm turning our attention to how addiction affects the addict emotionally, but also how it affects those closest to the person addicted. Dependency on drugs, alcohol, and other things is actually something that can either destroy or infect spouses, family members, and even close friends. The emotional cost of addiction, we normally see negative emotions like depression, maybe anxiety, and even anger. If the addiction is alcohol, think about it. Alcohol is a depressant. So alcohol abuse can make the feelings of depression even more acute. There are cycles people find themselves in. They drink. And then as depression comes, they drink more, and then it takes control. If a person who is an alcoholic gets in the cycle we discussed, it can also create an increased hazard of suicide. Another emotional cost of addiction is anxiety. Not only does alcohol abuse cause depression to worsen, it can do the same thing with anxiety. As a counselor, I've seen people who already have an anxiety problem, so they self medicate with alcohol or drugs, and it doesn't help. It actually intensifies the problem. It's been shown that for every person that abuses and addicted to drugs or alcohol, those closest to the person can have life damaging effects. There are actually 3 to 4 people in the relationship hurt by the one person who is addicted. As a counselor, I've noticed if the addict does not want to quit, the longer someone is closely connected to the addict, there is more destruction in the relationship. I've seen spouses who loved their addicted mate and bring them down with them. There are many people out there who actually suffer with PTSD due to the trauma they have experienced with their loved one who is addicted and refuses to do something about it. They actually suffer emotionally, mentally, and even spiritually. Think about it. A couple who have addiction in the middle of the relationship live through financial difficulty. What I've noticed with couples is that the one who is a slave to addiction spends money on the addiction, and it may take time before the other spouse sees it. If the addiction is, let's say, gambling or even shopping, if not stopped, can lead to financial ruin, especially if the addict is the one that has been put in charge of the money and assets of the family. The price tag can be very high, and some spouses do not find out until it's too late. Buying things not needed or gambling is actually a small part of the devastating cost of addiction. Financial problems can also bleed into other areas like losing a job due to addiction. Doctor bills can go up as well as the cost of insurance due to the effects of addiction on the person. And actually, by what I've seen, money is a small cost. the biggest hindrance is the breakdown of the addict's family. To be in a relationship with an addict who does not want to change can create and cause secrecy, fear, embarrassment, disgrace, anxiety, and for some, sad to say, violence. The thing that can happen in the household, if there are children living there, is unspoken rules and scripts. As a family, we are to grow and encourage the children and have things like healthy values and healthy boundaries to protect and encourage those children. Instead of a healthy growing pattern, everything is structured by the addict. Now, in counseling, especially biblical counseling, we try to help the family system have a foundation that is built on healthy things like being honest with your feelings, having the ability to share your hurts and mental conflict. In a healthy family unit, each family member should be able to freely share their wishes and aspirations. Now, here's what happens with the family of an addict. They have a foundation, but it's concealment and denial. The script taught to the family members is, we've got to keep this secret about dad or mom or the one who is addicted. And if confronted by others by what is seen is total denial of any problem. Children need to feel secure, and with the addict, it's the exact opposite, but they try to make it look that way. That's their script. A person controlled by drugs or alcohol normally have a modified mood. In fact, they're caught up in their own disassociation and depression as well as anxiety. They are preoccupied with their next fix. They miss the opportunity to raise their children in an atmosphere that's healthy and encouraging. Now, I've noticed counseling family members of addicts that, especially the children, are less sure of themselves and lack a confidence that is needed to navigate through adolescence. This seems to be especially true for the girls raised in the type of environment. If the dad is the one addicted, the female child grows up feeling a lot of shame. That shame then transfers over to how they feel about themselves and struggle many times with males during the dating years. They appear to be emotionally disconnected due to not having a father that shows them how a man is to treat them. Now, for the male son, they're normally just less connected. They also feel shame and embarrassment, but it does not seem to be to the degree of their sisters. Both tend to bury their feelings deep in their hearts, and they especially struggle with expressing themselves emotionally, allowing vulnerability. That then causes them to be incapable of deep felt intimacy. Now, another area where the children of parents suffering with addiction is they live by an unwritten rule, performance-based acceptance. In order to feel accepted by anyone, they have this false belief that they have to say and do all the right things all the time to feel any type of worth and acceptance. For many, depending on the length of their time in the home of an addict parent, they develop doubts of their own self-worth. For many, they feel their love has to be earned. And what's really sad is that many struggle with truly believing it when someone does show them love. So there you have it. Addicted parents who have internal struggles of self-confidence now pass down to the children. This is why we see so many become addicted even though they lived with addicted parents. Now we see where the word enable comes from. Let's say the dad is an addict, so mom now, who becomes the enabler of the addict, trying to manage the toxic household. So mom, out of survival, teaches the kids how to manage their father's addiction. For many families, it's like walking around on eggshells, making sure they don't rock the boat. This all can get really complicated, and each person finds a role to play. A few examples would be a child who becomes a scapegoat. The scapegoat pulls the attention away from the addict by now becoming an agitator, radical and rebellious for the family to focus on instead of the addict. This child really feels shame and exclusion. Then there's the absent child. This is the one no one worries about. They do not create problems. They just try to keep the peace and stay out of everyone's way. Honestly, what they're doing is taking their fear and inadequate feelings and stuff the feelings, or like hide them behind this invisible veil. Then you have the child that becomes the distractor. They can bring laughter to the family and can play the role well, but no one ever takes them seriously. They too are struggling deep inside with fear and shame. And there are many other possible roles, but my point is that they fall in these roles to survive in this toxic home and environment. And again, the key is to keep things secret and quiet so the family will not be exposed. Now, if what I've shared in this video rang true for you, let me suggest you to follow 5 freedoms we all are to live by. Let me suggest you write them down and begin to allow God to follow through on finding freedom. Number 1, when I see something, I can say something. That's important, especially for the children. Number 2, to be able to share what I feel. We all have feelings. We don't need to hold them in. We need to get them out. Number 3, to share my needs. We all have needs, and they need to be heard. Number 4, to look toward a good future. Try to stay positive. And then number 5, to believe and trust those around me will care about these articulations. Write those down and begin to follow through. And I believe this is a road to finding freedom. Hey, thank you so much for watching this video. If it was helpful to you, be sure to hit the thumbs up button. Also, be sure to subscribe and click the bell icon so you can always know when we post new content. Have a wonderful day as you continue finding freedom in your life.